Well, still not too much excitement. Hung this piece back here, tore that back wall out where it had a bunch of holes in it. We kind of lost our focus for a little bit. You know, we were focused on specific items like building walls and things like that. And then we kind of started jumping around. So we took some time to refocus and pulled all the trim off everything. And this is kind of the punch list I've got going on here. This is pretty much everything that needs to be completed before a drywall finishing crew comes in, starting to knock these off. Right now I'm just going to cap this water line right here, which fed the original refrigerator, and then this hole will be filled in. And at some point when these carcasses come out, I'll have to take some of the wall out and rerun a line over to there where it's going to sit. So we're kind of back in action now. It's just a whole lot of no fun at this point, you know, because we're at the preparatory stage. We're at the lull in it, so to speak. So it's going to be a whole lot of seemingly of nothing for a long time, and then we'll start gaining friction again and making some big leaps and bounds with finishing. Alright, I've got this pipe capped off now in the wall. Looks good, no leaks, water's back on. This particular piece right here will get cleaned up, repainted, and repurposed. So now I'm at the stage where I can put the patch back in here and move on. Well, alright, I got the patch installed. Got the first coat of tape in. Just moving around. This one's next. Alright, well the weather's been so nice, we're actually out kind of clearing the yard. Been using my winch to uproot a bunch of trees. Show you a couple up here. This place is just really overgrown. Been pulling out fence posts and you name it. There's a couple stumps. These were up by the house. Winched those right out. Starting to cut this tree out, cut it up now. Just got the root ball on this thing. It's a monster. Winched it right over. So it's gonna be a little bit of work out here, but it's already looking a whole bunch better. Alright, well it's got super cold outside, so we decided to come back inside and pull out these cabinets. Another little tasty morsel of delight there. The Vinahood. That thing you can't hardly touch it without sticking to it. Neat little way that they got the Romex cut down the drywall to get into the box. Not sure how I'm going to deal with that because I don't know where the connection will be on a new one. So that's what we've got going on right now. Alright, we're making some progress here, but I was taking this cabinet out, found a huge nest. Insulation. This is stuff out of the attic. There's no holes or anything. I don't know how this particular guy was getting in and out, but had a big nest under here, and this looks fairly fresh to me. I don't know what he is or she. Maybe you guys can help me out. It might be a pack rat. It might be a gerbil or something, but it's quite big. It's probably, if it was still there, maybe 6 inches long minus the tail. And there's tons of these little berries. There's a tree out in the front yard that's got those all over it. So this guy was evidently getting outside, bringing these berries back in, but I don't know how he was getting there. My assumption is through the attic somewhere. It may have been a pet, who knows? But he was nestled up in this little ball right here. He made quite the mess. So if anybody knows exactly what he is, let me know. Thanks. Alright, well I was getting ready to take the sink cabinet out and everything. I knew I had some water damage here. Hopefully you can see all that decay. This disposal right here was the culprit, and I've changed out truckloads of these things in my time, and this is the worst one I've ever seen. You know, the seals in there between where the water comes out and in the motor housing, you know, over time they'll leak and they'll come down and start dripping out the bottom. But I pulled the electrical cover off this, and this thing was just solid rust. And it was before I laid it down, and I poked a screwdriver and water just poured out. But the water was just running down this conduit on the inside, and then dripping out down here for years, I would assume. But that's it's obviously going to get a new one, but thought that was kind of interesting. All right, well, it snowed pretty good around here. It just melted off today, so I figured I'd come outside and kind of wrap up this electrical I'd explained. I haven't pulled these out yet, but I'd mentioned it goes in here at about 1.5 inches, and then coming down over here it was about 1 inch. Well, this is direct burial line that I found here, which is fine. So that piece of conduit ran down into the earth. This is just kind of what I pulled up. So what I've done is I've just stripped it off, cut it right here, left the one lead in there for this receptacle, so now it's got a recep outside, kind of staked it to the wall. The only thing left I have to do here is get some like duct paste, you know, kind of a soft substance, and seal around there. They had just gobs of silicone to try to seal that where that penetrates the house. So about $298. In a few minutes this will be all wrapped up. Alright, well, here's something else I forgot to show you guys. You can see all the blue paint on this wall. This originally was like a bookshelf entertainment type center thing that was built here, and you can see this patch right here I've put in. There were 2 doors here, and evidently they had a CRT television with a tube sticking off the back, so he'd cut out the wall and he made a little V section, a recessed area there for the TV to fit in. That was fine, but let me show you what I discovered in the bathroom several days ago. Went ahead and took the rest of the sheetrock off here. You can see this vent pipe. This comes from the stool. It feeds it with the air it needs. And this is where my patch is. So that pipe was right in their way. So a good solution, you know, going in here and jetting around it with some 1/8 bends. But this isn't even, it may have been glued, but the joints were never primed. There wasn't enough glue on them, so these are actually all loose. I'm not going to shake them, but that feeds out through the roof, so when it rains, rainwater comes down through here and it's actually leaking down this pipe. I don't know if you can see this kind of water stain running down, and there was a, you know, nothing really out here. It was running out on the ground, and it did hurt the bottom of the vanity a little bit. So I guess they tried to fix it at one point with spray foam. There's spray foam all around this joint right here, none on the rest. They probably couldn't reach them, but they obviously knew about it. So my solution, I'll whack this off, couple couplings, and I'll just put it back the way it was with a straight piece of pipe here. Hopefully I can break the seal on the roof vent flashing, push it up, and then pull it back down into the coupling. If I can't, I'll put a Cantex gasket, a CT gasket right here, or down below, it doesn't matter. And it's just a rubber gasket with 2 hose clamps on it, and I'll cinch it up. Well, I decided to attack this now since I've got my materials. The first thing I'm going to do is just mark it with a marker up here, so when I cut this and move it up and down, that will allow me to get it where it was, so I won't disturb the penetration through the roof, because it needs to be sticking up quite a ways. 2 couplings, a piece of pipe, plain and simple. Man, check this out. I took all this apart with my hands. I didn't have to cut anything. I just started wiggling that pipe, turned it, pulled it right out. It feels like there was a tiny bit of glue put on it, but it must have been only put on the pipe and not inside the coupling, because it squeezed it up a little bit, and definitely not enough. So they made my work a lot easier here. I just need to cut my length of pipe, pop 2 couplings on it, and I'm finished. But like I said, you know, these should have been primed. They're clearly not primed. Typically it'd be purple. And it's hard to see in here, but I can see a little bit of glue on there, but definitely not enough to fill it up and seal it. So I guess that's why they came back in with this spray foam. And you can see they were trying to wipe it around with a paper towel. It just got all garbled up into it. Very, very interesting. Alright, well, now these are prepped and ready to go. You can see they're primed with the purple primer. You just put it on there, be as clean as you can on your job as you can, and then let it dry. And now these are ready to go together. So I've got everything primed. And then these fittings here primed. This is just a little general information on putting this stuff together. Now when you go to glue it together, you can do it many different ways. On this particular job, I'll glue half the coupling onto each end, and then I'll glue this to one of the uprights, and then I'll finish off by bringing the top down into this one. You know, you can do it any way you want, but just keep in mind when you do glue these things together, put glue on the inside surface as well as the pipe itself, trying to be as clean as possible. Press them together and then give it a twist, maybe a quarter turn or so, and that'll help distribute the glue around in here. And you need to hold it. You know, don't just let it go, because with the amount of glue and everything in there, this can start hydraulically pushing your fitting off. So you want to hold it long enough to where it stays without trying to walk back off. You know, you can do pretty clean jobs, and sometimes when you're putting things together, if you're using a bunch of 1/8 bends or 1/16 bends or things like that, you don't really have the luxury to turn it all that much, but you know, just do the best you can. So I'll glue this up and show the finished result. Alright, well, everything's been glued up, put back in, no problems. You know, like I said, if you're a little careful with the glues and primers, you can do a really clean job with it without making a mess of everything. It actually took me longer to shoot the clip than it did to actually do the fix. You know, it was probably about 7 or 8 minutes to fix this done deal. So now I can move on to something else. That'll take care of a problem for the future owners as well. Good things.